Right now, let's take it over to our panel with New York City financial literacy school teacher and wealth and real estate coach Raymond Tran, Boston Globe editorial board member and columnist Karine Hajar, and Prairie Operating Company Market Strategy EVP Lou Bassanese. According to a recent Gallup poll, 85% of us consumers say they're looking for personal finance information, while Wallet Hub found that 66% of Gen Zers currently think savings accounts are the best way to invest your money. Lou, there's a lot of bad ideas out there that have gained currency. What do you make of these kids and their lack of information?
I will say this, you have to start somewhere. So if you're not saving at all, the first thing you're doing is putting into a savings account is going to open your eyes to the other options out there. I've been a lifelong Wall Street guy that didn't come from Wall Street or a family. I learned the hard way. So I think really you have to go on your own journey. And DIY is the new MBA because there's so many resources that are out there now that never existed 20, 30 years ago when I was going through school. So
I love that. DIY, the new MBA. Karine, why are people looking for new ways to educate themselves, do you think?
I think that they're not getting enough of that from school, frankly. I think that's a big problem. There was an Intuit study in 2024 that showed that over 80% of Gen Zers interviewed wanted financial literacy courses, and 95% that had taken them felt positively about them. So I think it's important that young Americans are given the tools and equipped with the understanding of how to build wealth themselves, that the American dream is attainable to them if they have the right tools.
Right, you do this every single day. You're teaching in New York City schools. You're telling kids how to invest money. And I was in one of your school sessions. What was interesting to me is I thought kids would be like, oh, this is really boring. I don't want to do it. But the opposite is true. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about making money. If you simplify for students, they just want to be able to learn how to make money. So what we do is we teach the kids using a stock market game sponsored by the Civic Foundation. They have $100,000 in virtual money to buy stocks. And that gives them real life applicable things to be able to take and use.
It's not real money, just FYI.
It's virtual money.
All right, but it's a great idea, and I know the kids absolutely love it, and then they teach their parents. Lou, to you, when you look at this, why do you think there's such a rise in entrepreneurship? Because, you know, this is two sides, same coin. People don't know a lot, and yet they're out there experimenting.
Well, I think everyone's realized that your boss can fire you, but your business can't, right? If you have your own business and have a side hustle that turns into something meaningful, you have independence. And now I would argue that technology has become the great enabler. It's made information readily available, but it's also made it very cheap and efficient for someone to start a new idea and turn it into, you don't even need to have an ability to design a website or figure out payments. You've got all this technology that exists to make it happen and connect it very easily.
Well, for some, the answer isn't saving more, it's starting something new. As I said, entrepreneurship in America continues to surge. Look at this number. The Department of Treasury says an average of 430,000 new business applications per month last year, so a big boost in those. Karine, what is the attraction, do you believe? Are we doing a good enough, are we making enough effort to explain the benefits of capitalism beyond just efficiency? That's what I hear all the time, and that's kind of cold.
It is cold, and I think like right now, especially as young people are struggling with the high cost of living, that's not really driving the message home necessarily. But to emphasize like why capitalism is so important and why it's important to the American dream, I think you have to start in schools. When I think about my educational peers, people who graduated in my cohort, those are the same type of people that a lot of them voted for Zohran Mamdani. You're seeing a lot of his support coming from progressive neighborhoods in New York, like East Village, young people who have graduated, who are, probably making good salaries, but are still struggling to get by with the high cost of living. But it's more than that. It's also what they were taught in college. I think that a lot of progressive higher education in particular focuses more on the shortcomings of capitalism and less on sort of why it works, more on the theoretical dream of socialism and less on why it does not work. So students need to be exposed to why the system is not perfect, of course, but it is the best one going.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I think one of the major benefits, and Ray, you can weigh in on this and what the kids in your classes are finding, because you teach entrepreneurship, is that it's not just having your own business, which is great. It's not just the efficiencies. It's also just running your own ship is so satisfying. What are you telling your students?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of kids say, hey, I want to start my own business. And I say, why? And they usually say, I want to be my own boss. And I tell them that, yes, that's a great idea, but it's actually more work than a regular full-time job. So we actually use a program called Virtual Enterprise, which is a global program that allows kids to learn how to run their own business. They do resumes, cover letters, they do job applications, and they apply for jobs, and they learn skills in 5 different departments: accounting and finance, administration, marketing, human resources, and graphic design. So all those things makes it, real life applicable for them to be able to try like a short internship.
I love that, Lou. So, there's a gap that Raymond is teaching this and then getting there, but it seems to me like that's sort of building the confidence that you need to go out into the world and start that business and do what you need to do to get something really going. How do you view that?
I agree. There's a huge gap. I mean, we're going to teach every kid in school about photosynthesis, but not about compound interest, right? That's a crime in my mind, because how many times you're going to ever use the ATP, ADP cycle from sciences? You're going to use your money every day, and you should really know how to, 1, manage it, 2, how to grow it and make it work for you, and then 3, the pitfalls of things like debt and credit, which I learned the hard way. I got my first credit card in college before I had any experience with finances, and go figure, it didn't end well, and I had student loans. And so I think, to Ray's point, encouraging young people to just try, to be engaged. I learned more from failing and experience, and you learn how to do it right the next time. But it's always, you fail fast and you fail forward. And it's the beauty of this. You're learning among peers that are going to pick you up. And I love the fact that you're giving them a holistic view of, it's not just being the boss, it's being the janitor to the secretary, the tech IT guy or woman, and just learning all those aspects that you might love or might not, and how to find partners to work with. So.
Green, agree, disagree? What do you think needs to be taught, say in high school, to get these kids there?
I absolutely agree. And I think kids in high school, you hit on a good point, which is going back to basics is important. Not just like the basics of debt and credit, but also basic skills. I mean, I think a lot of people, I covered young people in the 2024 election cycle, and I met a lot of young people who are really frustrated with what you would call the traditional tracks, either going into higher education and then going into classic industry after. They were either not making a lot of money doing that, they either had a lot of debt, or they said, we're not doing this and we're going into the trades and making a lot of money that way. I think it would be great to expose younger children to understanding like those are great tracks as well. You don't have to go to college and amass debt, especially now with an online economy. Social media presents a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities. Students don't have to be pigeonholed into going into higher education.
Right. One thing you told me that I thought was so interesting is that your students go home and then teach their parents what they learned in the classroom. Tell me about that.
So every single conversation we have, I encourage them to speak to their parents. So how would it feel to say, hey, mom, dad said, hey, how was school today? And they say, well, we learned about the stock market. Did we invest in the stock market? We learned about real estate. So to have those conversations is really life-changing for the student and the parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I have teenagers, and they usually say, it was good today.
Thank you, Raymond, Corrine, and Lou. You'll be back with us later.